What's up, you guys? I'm Rachel DeMita, and welcome to the Courtside Club. I just got off of the live watch party of the Indiana Fever versus the Golden State Valkyries. Boy, was that an ugly game. Shout out to all of you guys who tuned in. Some of you guys were even watching from work, and I appreciate that so very much, but it was such an ugly basketball game. And obviously a very disappointing loss for the Indiana Fever too. They got blown out by 19 points. They lost 80-61. So in today's video, I do want to give you guys my initial thoughts from that game, and then I also wanted to briefly talk about the All-Star draft that Kaitlyn Clark and Napheesa Collier had just last night. So first, let's talk about this game. So this was Kaitlyn Clark's return to the Indiana Fever. She has been out with a groin injury. She started the game and Lexi Hall lost her starting spot to Kaitlyn Clark. They started Ari McDonald, Kaitlyn Clark, Kelsey Mitchell, Natasha Howard, and Aaliyah Boston. Now, what we noticed right off the bat is that Kaitlyn Clark was playing off the ball quite a bit, and I feel like if you've been a fan of Kaitlyn Clark, if you've watched her play, she just doesn't really do well playing off the ball. She is a ball dominant player. She needs the ball in her hands most of the time, whether she is scoring or whether she is making plays on the ball to get her teammates involved. She needs to have the ball in her hands most of the time, and that just wasn't happening. So that was one thing that I noticed right off the bat, and I don't understand it. I don't know why this keeps happening to her. It happened some of the year last season, and it's also been happening quite a bit this season. I don't understand playing Kaitlyn Clark off the ball, and I know they had also talked about that they had been doing that in a couple of the recent practices leading up to this game, but I will forever not understand it. And I feel like if you have a player like Kaitlyn Clark, you have to play her to her strengths. There is one style of basketball that works for Kaitlyn Clark, and if you're not going to use her as the superstar that she is and the style of play that works for her, then you're doing a disservice not only to her, but to the rest of the team. When she has the ball in her hands, when she's able to create, when she's getting a feel for the ball, she makes everybody around her better, and it also just opens the floor up for everyone else. She ended the night with 10 points, 6 assists, and 5 rebounds. She was 2 for 5 from the 3 and 4 for 12 from the field. Now, something else that I noticed with the Indiana Fever today, the energy was low across the board. I feel like they started off the game well. Both teams came out hot. They came out running with pace. They were playing a fast-paced style of basketball. And even in the first quarter of play, the Indiana Fever had 16 points in the first 5 minutes of play, but they ended the first half with only 32 points. So they literally only scored another 16 points in the last 15 minutes of the first half, and then that style of basketball pretty much continued for the entirety of the rest of the game. I also just noticed a lot of bad body language on the court, and it wasn't just from one player, it was multiple players on the Fever. So I don't know even what to say. Like, some of the stuff, I'm just kind of like, I don't really know what happened. They weren't playing in sync. There was a lot of ISO ball happening. There was a lot of selfish basketball being played. There was a lot of shots that I was just so confused as to why those shots were even being taken. There was a lot of long twos. You guys know I hate a long two. Step back and shoot the three-pointer, please. There's the difference between a mid-range shot and a shot that's like around the free throw line or closer in, like around the paint area. There's a difference between that and shooting a shot that is 1.5 feet in front of the three-point line. I just think that those are very low quality shots, and there were a lot of those. There was a lot of ISO ball. There was a lot of missed passes to the cutters. There was a lot of post plays where they were forcing the ball up in the post where they clearly didn't have anything, and there were shooters open around the arc. I'm just kind of at a loss for words. I don't know. I feel like there were only 2 players for the Indiana Fever who had good games, and that was Damiris Dantas. She came out in the second half. She only had 9 minutes on the floor this game, and as you guys know, she was playing in AmeriCup for Team Brazil. She ended that AmeriCup run in the championship game scoring 35 points. She averaged over 21 points throughout that entire tournament, so she was obviously playing great over there with Team Brazil, and it seems like she didn't miss a beat when she came back to play with the Indiana Fever. I thought she did well. She gave the team a spark when she came out on the court. She hit some good buckets. She ended the night with 4 points, and she was a +7 on the court. She was one of only 2 players who were in the plus on this game, and the only other player was Sid Colson, who only played for literally a minute on the court. But she played well, and I also thought Makayla Timpson played well. And Makayla Timpson is going to be someone, I think, that within 2 years in the WNBA, she's going to be averaging over 2 blocks a game. She is so athletic, and I think once she catches up to the speed of the game and the pace of the game that the Indiana Fever should be playing, Makayla Timpson is going to be such a dog out there. And I was so impressed by her today. You know, she missed some shots that I feel like she could have made around the basket, but overall she ended the game with 10 points. She had 2 blocks on the night. She had 3 steals on the night. She had 6 rebounds, and she was 5 for 9 from the field. So shout out to Dantas and Makayla Timpson. You guys came to play. One other thing with the Indiana Fever is I didn't understand the rotations at all. I thought there was points in the game where the Indiana Fever had momentum, and then Coach Stephanie White would sub out certain players who were creating that momentum. And there was even a time in the third quarter where the Indiana Fever made this big run. They got back, I believe, within 3 or 5 points of the Golden State Valkyries, who had a double-digit lead in the third quarter. They made this big run, and then Kaitlyn Clark came out of the game, and then the Golden State Valkyries immediately had a 9-0 run. And then from there, they were just off to the races, and they pretty much just foot on their neck. They finished out the game, and they BTA to the Indiana Fever. And I think the overall sentiment with a lot of Indiana Fever fans is this has just been a disappointing season. I know this was a day game. It felt a little bit different, but that shouldn't be an excuse as to why the Indiana Fever doesn't come out and play with energy. The Golden State Valkyries are on Pacific time. Like, this game for them started at 9 a.m. Pacific time, which means they were probably waking up, which would have been for them like 5 a.m. They came out with the energy. They made the adjustments on offense and on defense. They played hard the entire game. They played physical the entire game. They kept in it mentally the entire game. Like, there was some crash outs that were happening with the Indiana Fever. Overall, just a disappointing game. I don't know what else to say about it. I'm not going to raise my blood pressure and start freaking out, because this is something that the Indiana Fever, they've shown to be very, very inconsistent this season. And it's disappointing. Like, it sucks because a lot of fans were so excited about this season. I'm not saying that they can't turn it around and they can't find a way to put games together, back-to-back wins together, back-to-back playing together as a team together. Like, can't put these things together and build and build and build, but it's just not looking good. Like, you go from the Commissioner's Cup, you win a game that you're not supposed to win, and the team is celebrating in the locker room after, and you're popping champagne, and there's just so much team chemistry, and everybody felt like they turned a corner, and then they have another good game right after that, and then you lose to the Sparks the way that you did, and then Kaitlyn Clark comes back to the team, and this is a moment that fans are excited about, and the team should also be excited about, and then immediately when she's back on the floor, it just feels like a lot of ISO basketball. Like, I don't know what kind of scheme isolation basketball on offense is and how that is ever going to work for this team. So again, you guys, I think that's all I have to say on the Fever side. I don't know. I hope they get it together, and obviously still rooting for them. They have the pieces to get it together. They have shown us in other games that they can work as a team. They can play great defense. They can hit wide open shots. But in this game, they shot 22% from 3, which is horrible. And they only shot 30% from the field. Like, those numbers in themselves are just awful. But the 30% from the field comes from the bad shot selection, that they just continued to force up bad shots for pretty much the entire game, except the first 5 minutes of the game, and then also the first few minutes of the third quarter. So overall, not a great game for the Indiana Fever. They're going to have to bounce back. They have a tough one against the Atlanta Dream on Friday. And then also they play the Wings again on Sunday, which the Wings are going to come to play. It was a close game the last time they played, so we will just have to see. But with that, you guys, the Golden State Valkyries continue to be a team that is shocking the WNBA. They were a team that a lot of people thought were not even going to make playoffs this year, but their coach has done such a fantastic job with this team. Their rotations are on point. It's almost like you don't even realize when they are putting in subs, because the rotations are so seamless when someone steps on the court. They also don't have any players on this team that are like big superstars. You know, at any point in time, one of these players can step up and have a big game. And in this game in particular, that was Veronica Burton. She was 6 for 11 from 3. She was totally lights out. She was a plus 22 on the court. She had 21 points to end the game, 6 assists and 8 rebounds. And she played 34 minutes. And that was a player, like, at any given moment, one of these players can step up big, but you just don't know who that's going to be. And the Golden State Valkyries, they move the ball really well. They play with a lot of pace. What they were also doing, they were driving in, kicking out, driving in, kicking out, moving the ball around the arc. They got so many wide open threes where the Indiana Fever were not even in the vicinity to get a hand in their face. And they are a team similar to the Golden State Warriors who was going to live or die by the three-pointer, but tonight it worked in their favor and they blew out the Fever. So they shot 37.5% from three and they were 37% from the field, which is funny because they shot better from three than they even did from the field. But overall, I continued to be impressed by this team, and I especially continue to be impressed by the coaching. And so they're a scary team. In the second half of the season, you cannot sleep on the Golden State Valkyries. At any point in time, they can beat any team in this league. So let's switch gears now, you guys, and let's talk about the WNBA draft. So that was Napheesa Collier and Kaitlyn Clark hand selecting their teams for the WNBA All-Star Game. Now, a few things stood out to me in this draft, and I want to talk about those with you guys here. I thought it was interesting right off the bat, Kaitlyn Clark and Napheesa Collier seemed to be picking up their friends first or their teammates first. So Kaitlyn Clark's first two picks were Aaliyah Boston and Sabrina, and then Fee's first two picks were Brianna Stewart and Alicia Gray, who she played with in Unrivaled. And a lot of people were surprised that A'ja Wilson fell to the 5th overall pick. I actually thought Kaitlyn was going to pick A'ja as her second pick just because A'ja is A'ja, and obviously she would be an asset to whatever team she played for. But she went with her friends, she went with her teammates, and she made sure that the people on her team, I think somebody tweeted they're like no ops on Kaitlyn's team, and that's kind of what it was. Like if you look at these rosters closely, there are some players that she's maybe gotten into spats with on the court. There's players who have said certain things about her that just miraculously didn't end up on her team. If we look at Team Clark, we have Kaitlyn, Aaliyah Boston, Sabrina Ionescu, A'ja Wilson, Satu Sabally, Kelsey Mitchell, Gabby Williams, Sony Citron, Kiki Ariafen, Jackie Young, and Kayla Thornton. Now, just as of last night, A'ja did get hurt in the game against the Liberty, and it seems like it's some sort of wrist injury. We don't know the severity of it yet, but a lot of people are speculating that she might not even get to play in the All-Star game. So it'll be interesting to see who fills in her spot, and obviously sending out best of wishes to A'ja. Hopefully it's nothing too serious. Satu is also injured at the moment, so I don't know if she will be playing. We will just have to see. I also thought it was cool that Kaitlyn picked up Sony and Kiki, two teammates and two obviously All-Star rookies. Now, if we look at Team Collier, she picked up Brianna Stewart and Alicia Gray, Neko Ogumike, Paige Beckers, Courtney Williams, who was her teammate at the Lynx, Skylar Diggins, Angel Reese, Alyssa Thomas, Kelsey Plum, and Ryan Howard. The thing that I thought was most interesting about Napheesa Collier in this draft is that she decided to wear an Unrivaled t-shirt. Now, we talked about it in yesterday's video, how there seems to be a conflict of interest that might happen in WNBA CBA negotiations, and Napheesa Collier and Brianna Stewart's obviously involvement and their league that they created in Unrivaled. Now, not only did she wear an Unrivaled t-shirt, but she also talked about Unrivaled a lot. Like, it felt like with every draft pick, there was something about Unrivaled, or there was something about the Lunar Owls, which was the team that she played on. She talked about, players who played with her, or if she was picking players, she was like, oh, they were in Unrivaled with me. She was also doing the hootie hoot hoo thing that the Lunar Owls do. And I just thought this was so interesting. It was definitely a choice. She was definitely sending a statement. And I do think, though, if this was the NBA, they wouldn't have allowed this. Kaitlyn was wearing an Indiana Fever t-shirt. Napheesa was wearing an Unrivaled t-shirt, and she was promoting the heck out of Unrivaled during the entire draft. That was definitely a choice. And so I'm wondering what you guys, or how you guys feel about that. Let me know in the comments below. Lastly, the biggest news of the night was the fact that Kaitlyn Clark and Napheesa Collier, they traded their coaches. They didn't trade any players in the draft. They traded their coaches, and a lot of people think they know why. So last year, Coach Cheryl Reeve had a few things to say about Kaitlyn Clark on Twitter. This was one of the exchanges. Cheryl Reeve tweeted about a preseason game and how the Lynx weren't going to be playing, and that the Lynx game, wasn't going to be televised. And so somebody commented, they said, is there a reason why it's not being shown? And someone else commented and they said, because they only care about Kaitlyn. And Cheryl Reeve tweeted and she said that part. So she was replying to that, obviously insinuating something about Kaitlyn. A lot of people felt like this was very unprofessional unprofessional for a coach to be engaging in the fan commentary and especially calling out one single player that has nothing to do with the reason why the Lynx game was not televised, why their preseason game wasn't on television. That has nothing to do with Kaitlyn. Since then, you guys, she's gotten a lot of backlash and she did delete that tweet, but I feel like Kaitlyn might have been keeping receipts and she saw that. Also, it is good to note that Cheryl Reeve was the head coach of Team USA last year, and of course, they did not select Caitlin Clark. They did not bring her to the Olympics. And so with all of that, Kaitlyn said, you know what? Why don't we trade coaches, Fee? You can have your own coach and I'll take Sandy. And Fee was okay with that. It seemed like something they agreed upon before the draft, but that was a little juicy moment and I'm glad it happened. A lot of fans are glad it happened. I think this game should be a lot of fun. I think All-Star in Indianapolis will be a lot of fun. I have my tickets for the 3-point shootout and the skills challenge, and I do plan on being there. So if any of you guys are in Indy for All-Star, make sure that you come and say hello. My cats are fighting. Sunny, stop. Sunny, stop it. Please stop. Thank you. But anyway, you guys, with that, I wanted to keep this video short and sweet. Of course, let me know all of your thoughts in the comments below. Thumbs up this video if you enjoyed it and click that little subscribe button because we upload new videos every single week. And with that, I'll see you guys next time. Ooh, yeah, nah.